So next up, we have an armchair conversation, technology to facilitate change and support change agents. It'll be moderated by Lisa Altieri. She is the founder and CEO of Climate Solutions Net, referred to as the Fitbit for climate solutions. On the panel, we have Ruari McKenna, Director of Business Development for Care2, an online social action network for recruiting new donors, members, supporters, and customers. And we have Danny Copeland, a freelance multimedia specialist focusing on creating digital content that aids in marine conservation. In 2015, Danny spent a year traveling and diving around the world as a European Rolex scholar.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the conversation on technology to facilitate change and support change agents. I just want to say quickly that the chant was wonderful. I don't know if it was planned, but I was seeing images of the ocean and of trees, and it was very beautiful. So thank you for that. So I'm joined today with Ruari McKenna, who is the Director of Client Strategy for Care2, the world's largest community for good. For the last 19 years, Ruari has worked as an architect of public engagement campaigns, focusing primarily on public policy advocacy, behavior change, and fundraising. Ruari has studied persuasion theory in Europe, the US, and China, and he's convinced that online campaigning tools offer citizens the greatest opportunity to shape the world from the bottom up since the invention of the printing press. He's the proud father of Sebastian and husband of Adriana. I'm also joined by Danny Copeland, who's an underwater photographer, filmmaker, and marine conservationist. He's based in Bristol in the UK. His recent work has focused on using 360 VR technology to aid in marine conservation. We're going to start off by briefly showing you how each of us is using technology to facilitate change, and then we're going to move into a conversation. I was nominated to go first. So I'm the founder of Climate Solutions Net. Policy is far behind science-based goals. We must find new ways to move climate solutions forward. The majority, or a large part, of the solutions pathway is actually in the hands of individual choices. Whether people are choosing to put solar on their house, or choose a green electricity product, whether they're choosing an EV or a Hummer, whether they're choosing a heat pump water heater or a gas water heater, whether they're choosing to eat a burger or a plant-based meal. In fact, 40% of US emissions depend on household and individual choices directly: electricity and natural gas use, transportation, and diet choices. With recent technology advances, these solutions and alternatives in these areas are now becoming accessible and affordable. In fact, families can save money by taking action. The problem, people don't know about it. So according to Yale research, 70% of Americans are concerned about climate change, but don't know what to do. They want to help, but they don't know what the solutions are. They don't know what their impact looks like, where it's coming from, and what choices they can make to help. We're changing that. We're bringing solutions to the people and empowering them to take action. We're making it easy and fun and positive to find out what the solutions are and what they can do to help through a community-based social engagement platform. Our platform facilitates local engagement where people are working in community with each other to take these actions and reach goals. First, for users, we help them to discover their impact and where it's coming from, and we show them what that looks like for other communities across the world. Then we help them find actions that work for them. We're working to include actions that are helpful and resources that are helpful also to low-income and frontline communities, and bring resources to their communities. We include robust analytics where we help provide custom estimates for each household on what actions they can take and how much they can save. We also include tips and resources. We connect people with rebates, financing options, community programs, and how-to guides to help them be successful completing actions. We're also working on adding a marketplace to help connect people to the products and services they need. We're working to include in the marketplace local mom and pop shops and local service providers to make sure that we're supporting local economy. We also then connect people to talk with each other and work together so they can chat, think next door for climate solutions. Chat with each other, share ideas and resources to help each other succeed on actions. We encourage them and show them if they finish all the actions they've chosen, how much they can save and reduce their impact. And then we track their progress as they complete actions. And then we connect them together to work together socially in teams, community groups like high schools and faith communities, and then also in neighborhoods. We track progress at the community level, and then we'll also have a national leaderboard. And then we also have a leaderboard to encourage fun competition and challenges locally with teams, community groups, and neighborhoods to acknowledge success in the community. And then folks can also post a photo and share out with their groups and on social media and their success. We're working with companies, nonprofits, and cities across the US. We're currently piloting in 19 cities and counties from Hawaii to Virginia. We're also working with national faith organizations, and we're helping them to take action together to facilitate that and to celebrate their success. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, you don't need that.
I believe people are inherently good. They want to do the right thing. They want to make a positive impact on the world, but sometimes they don't necessarily know how. With Care 2, I wanted to show that it's easy for all of us to take action, and if we all stand together collectively, we can make an incredible impact.
There's definitely a spark of activism in cities across the country. People who never thought of themselves as activists are proud to call themselves activists and get more involved. Care 2 definitely provides a platform for those folks to start a local campaign, to have that campaign go nationwide, and you see people running and winning campaigns in a way that they never could if they didn't have that platform to help them amplify their voice.
Whether it's a signature on our site or if individuals want to donate to the organizations that we work with, Care 2 is a megaphone.
Technology that we're implementing is allowing us to reach out to members who are participating in the petition signing process and to, in relatively real time, tailor what they see and the opportunities they have to make a difference to their level of interests.
Whether you're on your computer, your tablet, or your phone, we provide the tools that help you create action.
We don't need to just read the news or worry about all the things that are happening in the world that are terrible, but we can actually respond to those, and we can help support people and programs that are making a difference, that are helping lift one another up. And with those steps, people are able to realize their own power and the power within their own community.
Many of the world's problems today are actually created by corporations in the blind pursuit of profit. So I wanted to kind of turn that model upside down. We actually make the world a better place through our product. I call that an engine for good.
We are a social enterprise, so we make money and we invest that money back into the engine to do more good.
You can be a responsible business while you have impact, and our movement just keeps growing and growing.
So I guess it's over to me then. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, I'm going to apologise in advance for my my British accent if you guys struggle to understand some of the things I say. So just to give you a quick overview of the work that I do and how I use technology to instigate change. As Lisa said before, I'm an underwater photographer, I'm a filmmaker and a marine conservationist, and that obviously doesn't really fit on a business card very well, so I tend to describe myself as a underwater multimedia specialist. And what that ultimately involves me, what kind of work does that, what does that mean? I work in the underwater media world, I work in marine conservation, and I try and find ways to use the former to benefit the latter. It takes lots of different kind of, it manifests itself in different ways. Some of the work that I do involves maybe being a gear in someone else's machine, be it just a behind-the-scenes cameraman for, say, BBC Blue Planet 2, or being a time-lapse photographer for the recent documentary Chasing Coral. That's kind of one element of my work, but the sort of stuff that I really am particularly passionate about are self-driven projects where I collaborate most often with NGOs to basically identify opportunities to use media to help them achieve their charitable goals. I do an awful lot of work with these animals, manta rays, with a particular charity called the Manta Trust. And the work that I do with these NGOs ranges from, say, graphic design to social media management to creating films using underwater photography, building websites, all different kinds of technology. But one particular medium of technology that has kind of particularly taken my interest recently, and I've started to kind of occupy this niche, is virtual reality, or more specifically, 360 virtual reality. And I've got a particular interest in how we can use this exciting new medium to drive ocean conservation. Now, just to kind of maybe catch everyone up, have everyone on the same page, what is 360 VR? What am I talking about? Well, essentially, probably the best way I can describe it is spherical video. It's live action, so it's not necessarily creating virtual worlds like a game or something. It's filming the real world around you. And we often do that using crazy rigs that involve between 1 to 6 cameras. This one in particular had 6 in an underwater housing here. And we take the footage that each of these cameras capture, and we stitch it together in a big jigsaw. And when you're on a computer, that ends up kind of looking like this. This is a sort of a 360 scene here of myself and some colleagues and friends on a boat in the Azores. And basically, we then take this rectangular jigsaw that we've created by filming with those cameras, and we wrap it up into a ball, and then we place the viewer in the center of that sphere. And the way they experience that is by wearing headsets. And ultimately, as you can imagine, this technology is extremely immersive, but potentially very powerful. People say photos, a picture paints 1,000 words, films show you stories, but I feel like 360 VR has the ability to actually transport you into the story and take you to places to meet characters, people, individuals, or in this case, wildlife, that people might not ever have access to. So the ways I'm using 360 VR in the last couple of years, this was probably the principal way I've used it. The first opportunity I actually had to use it, which was helping gain protection for these guys. This is one species of a group of fish called devil rays. And basically, I partnered with the charity Manta Trust that I mentioned earlier, and they were preparing to try and help secure this group of species a form of international protection from wildlife trade, which is currently decimating a lot of their populations. And we looked at what was going to happen. They were basically going to go to this conference where they were going to pitch to politicians to accept the proposal and grant these species the protection they deserve. And we decided that, well, how do we convince those politicians to vote yes, to vote in favor? And we had the idea of, let's create a VR film where we can transport them and take them on a dive with these animals that they would otherwise never have seen before. Let's kind of get them away from thinking about the numbers, the 99% population declines, all those kind of figures, and get them thinking the other side of their brain, the more, I guess, emotional human element, and see how incredible these animals are and how worthwhile they are of protection. So we ended up creating this film. We took it to CITES in South Africa. This is the film we created, The Mini Mantas of Maria, based in the Azores. And we ended up playing it to about 60 nations at the CITES conference in October 2016. We kind of played it to over 350 delegates, including politicians and fisheries ministers, transporting them to the Azores to see these animals. And obviously, as you can see from the photos themselves, the reactions kind of speak for themselves. They were pretty blown away. And we know that, well, I should say, devil rays were successful. They gained that protection. And we know that this film helped sway the voting stance of several nations, at least. So it played a role in helping them kind of gain that victory, kind of cross that finish line. Other ways kind of using VR now, I've done some work with the Dubai Aquarium to create educational content where you can go on a dive experience with various forms of megafauna, both terrestrial and underwater. I kind of provided the underwater stuff, so with whale sharks, manta rays, dugongs, and the like. And I've also started creating VR content to fundraise. So this is another 360 film that I created with a charity called the Blue Marine Foundation. And it was basically talking about the work that they do in Italy to create a marine protected area that works for both nature and the fishermen of the fishing communities in those islands. And of course, we're using that kind of film on the ground in country, but we principally used it most recently, just about 2 weeks ago, to basically help them pitch for funding to some corporate sponsors in London. And there was, that film helped play a role in them gaining about £150,000, maybe $200,000 for the Blue Marine Foundation to invest back into the projects they're doing. So fundraising is another way I'm using VR to help deliver change. So I'll quickly wrap up there so we can actually start talking about some things, discuss some stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having a chat with you guys. Cheers.
Wonderful. Thanks, Danny. So we're going to start off with the big question. Does using technology facilitate change? Danny?
Okay, I'll take the first one. This one. I do think technology is crucial to delivering change, but I'm going to take probably quite a potentially surprising opinion to a lot of people in here, in that it can facilitate change, but often it doesn't, and often it can fail in delivering change. And I think where technology fails to deliver change is when campaigns, or be it from an institution, be it from a grassroots level, be it from an NGO or individuals, when it fails to deliver change when they use technology is when they focus too much on, in my opinion, just raising awareness. And my kind of belief is that raising awareness doesn't always equivalent to change, doesn't actually deliver change in many cases. Yeah, I can.
Rory, what do you think?
Yes, it does. We do it every day, and I'll tell you how if you like. Let me present a broader thesis to answer the question. I was talking to somebody about this last night. How many people here think they know the story of the Watergate break-in? I bet you don't. So this is a fascinating example of how people make bad decisions. So the story we're told is that in an attempt to get political intelligence on his opposition, a gangster president, and thank God we don't have one of those anymore, right? He decided to attack his opponents. So far, so true. What's left out of the narrative is the reason they decided to run this crazy, relatively low-yielding break-in. And I looked into it, and I found out the answer is actually quite fascinating. There was one man in the room when they decided to break into the Watergate Hotel who thought it was a bad idea. And what was unique about this one man was that he was the only one in the room not there when they were discussing the alternatives to Watergate, some of which included kidnapping, violent extortions, and a whole ream of things that until the current administration came into play seemed unthinkable. So this guy was listening to whether or not to break into the hotel on its merits. Everybody else was thinking about whether to do that instead of even worse things. And as a result, it didn't seem like such a bad choice. And so they made a terrible choice. And I think where this is really relevant to a lot of the work that we do is there's often this assumption that as we get to really critical moments, and obviously in many ways we're already past them in environmental terms, maybe people will snap out of their lethargy and decide to act. It doesn't work that way. People make increasingly desperate decisions. They don't evaluate options properly. And as a result, the longer we delay taking action, the worse things are ultimately going to be. There's no question about that. So at Care 2, what we're trying to do is give people, through technology, opportunities to take actions right now that will make an immediate difference. And I'll give you one quick example. We were working with Patagonia, the brand that many of you are probably aware of, and they wanted to draw attention to the Arctic Wildlife Reserve and the attempts under what at the time was the Obama administration by some lobbyists to drill there. And so they came to us and they said, look, this is a bad idea. We need to raise awareness. We need to make as many people as possible agree with us, and not just agree, but to your point, Danny, do something with that attitude, take an action. So they created a little movie, The Refuge. We embedded that movie in a petition that we created, and before the first 24 hours were out, we'd over 50,000 signatures. And within 6 days, we had about 94,000. Shortly thereafter, the legislation was passed by the Obama administration at the time to prevent drilling. Now, we were just one part of a broad campaign, and we never try to take credit for things as though we're acting by ourselves, because that in some ways is what the technology's for. We connect our members to groups like yourselves, to some of the biggest and some of the smallest nonprofits in the world, including right here in the United States. And in doing that, in making those connections, we give people the ability to actually act, to say, here's a call to action. I want to invite my social network, my friends, my colleagues to sign up for this. And then upon getting those signatures, not only is there the ability to deliver the call to action to the target of the petition, but the organization that was sponsoring the action suddenly has a much broader support base. And that's really the only way real change is going to come, when people come together and when they decide to do more than just be aware, but to actually act. And I'll close out the answer with one kind of broader observation. The gatekeeper model is over. It's gone. If you think both in media and political terms, 2004, you had Hardeen gave the Democratic Party a scare, and 4 years later, a young senator from Chicago, using that grassroots organizing model, taking it a step further, doing it a little bit more with a little bit more sophistication, unseated what was seen as a unmovable, inevitable candidate. And 8 years after that, Bernie Sanders almost took over a party he's not even a member of, with grassroots membership. And in parallel to that, if you think about the GOP before it became the party of Trump, they used to have a pretty senior elder type control over who gets the nomination. Then the Tea Party came, and we all know what came next. So grassroots mobilization is extremely effective, but it's not necessarily always on the side of progress. And so it's extremely important at the moment that people do more than just be concerned, that they join organizations, that they sign actions, that they start campaigns on technological platforms like ours. And if we do that, if we get more people involved, maybe we can pull this catastrophe back a little. But I think we should be very clear here. We're in extremely dark times. I do a lot of my work outside of the US as well, and just yesterday the Italian Interior Minister called for a street by street, square by square purging of immigrants. And so the horror that we're seeing on the border here is unfortunately not just happening here. And the common denominator here is, to your point, Danny, people are often aware, but they don't do anything with the awareness. People need to act, and they need to act quite urgently. Hopefully our technology gives one opportunity among many to take those actions.
Great. Thanks, Ruari. So you're seeing possibility that sometimes technology doesn't work. What makes the difference? What are the things that, when does it work, when does it not work? What are the key things that people should be looking at?
Sure. So, I mean, at the heart of any kind of campaign, but regardless of the kind of technology you want to use, be it film or be it a really awesome platform that enable people to set up petitions and the like, the focus, you can't lean too heavily on the technology without, at the very least, having a solid strategy in place for how you're using it, why you're using it, what you're trying to achieve, who you're trying to talk to. So I think, to answer the question, when projects that have failed in their using technology to drive change, it's because they haven't got that. They're focusing on that kind of raising awareness element, which doesn't necessarily equal change. And that's what Care2 is doing, is providing a platform that allows people to actually create a call to action. Yeah. Right. So I'd say like sort of 4 recommendations for all projects or all campaigns, regardless of the kind of technology you're trying to use to deliver change. You need to think about what target audience are you trying to speak to, and try and identify that as narrowly as possible. It could be an entire demographic or group of people, it could be a nation, it could be a singular individual, be it a philanthropist or a politician or the like. You need to find the way of saying that message in a compelling way, which is the technological part, but you have to give them a clear call to action. Yeah. Otherwise they won't do anything. Yeah? The awareness is raised, but no action is taken. Third one is you need to pick a messenger, and that both comes in the form of maybe someone with authority that can deliver that message, or even the timing of it. maybe picking the right moment when political situations kind of, maybe what's the word, sort of set up change to happen, kind of waiting for the right moment, that sort of thing. And then, so we got, I'm trying to remember the fourth one now, excuse me.
Target audience. Maybe.
Target audience, compelling message, clear messenger. Yeah. What was that, sorry? Call to action. Yes, there we go. That's the fourth one.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you. In sort of closing, before we run out on the clock here, we're going to ask both Ruari and Danny, what do you see coming next? What's coming next in terms of strategies or technologies, and using technology to facilitate change?
I think increasingly people want to be the center of the story. They don't simply want to help and take a background role. And so as organizations try to engage individuals, it's extremely important that they give them more to do than simply ask them for money. There has to be a clear theory of change. It's not enough to identify a problem. What difference would it make if that person got involved with your organization? And so what we try to do with our technology, and I think this is increasingly going to be very important, is bring online and offline behaviors together. So it's very easy online to connect people very quickly at great scale, but the people who tend to stay loyal to organizations and continue to act, you can often measure the likelihood of that by whether they turn up to an offline event. So as you're considering what opportunities to give people to act, don't be afraid to invite them to attend a rally, a conference, an event. Ask them their opinion. Ask them how they think things could be done differently. But if you're simply saying, if only you knew what I know, you would agree with me, it's a long road. You have to give people more than information. There have to be opportunities to change behavior, and technology is making that easier and easier.
Great, thanks, Ruari. Danny, what do you think? What's coming next?
Well, I certainly hope VR does. That's in my interest. I think, not so much from a technological standpoint, but from strategies, I do think more and more groups, be they NGOs or governments or institutions, are realizing the importance of having that theory of change to understand what goals you're trying to achieve, and then maybe how technology fits into that, and how it helps you move towards that kind of end goal. I think that's my impression is that more and more NGOs are kind of understanding the need for that kind of the importance of having a theory of change. From a technological standpoint, obviously I'm trying to see how VR and 360 can play a role in sort of driving change specifically. I think video, it's already exploding. It already is massive. I think it's only going to get bigger as we have this world that is inundated with information. You have to try and find ways of breaking through, and film is one of the most powerful ways of doing that. I'm interested to see how maybe AR, augmented reality, maybe kind of plays a role. I'm not quite sure. I'm still thinking about that, to be honest.
Can you define what AR is quickly?
Sorry, yes, AR is augmented reality. So whereas 360 video is like live action, putting a headset on, being transported to another world around you, whereas virtual reality is someone creates a virtual world on their computer, puts a headset on you, and then you're in that game or in that world. Augmented reality is kind of like putting on some kind of headset or something, and you still see the world as it is around you. I still see you sitting next to me, but I have virtual content overlaid over reality. So I might see like a little screen saying your heart rate or something, or the temperature in this room, or the weather outside. That's AR.
Cool.
If I could also just add to that in the few seconds we have left, the change that I think we need to see more than anything else is the return to being a member of an organization. If we're living as we are under a president who lies the way other people breathe, it's only going to be more and more difficult to access quality information. One way to get that information is to join activist organizations. Read directly what they're doing on the ground. That's the best insurance policy we can come up with against a torrent of lies. So my big appeal would be, please identify organizations that are working on your issue areas and join them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ruari and Danny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.